everybody, and welcome to the to the JL Fit Life podcast. My name is Jackie Lavadia, and I am your host. Today is January 16th. Somehow we are already in the middle of January. I have no idea how that happened. Like, what the heck? Usually I find January, February, March are usually like the longest months of the year for me. And then everything else just flies by, especially like the last few months of the year. But for some reason this January is kind of like just like going, yeah, like it's just going by fast. I am having a reset day today. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I feel like that is. But if you are watching me on video, you can see that I obviously just had a shower and you're seeing like my lion's mane of a hair of a hair of a hair of head, I guess you could say. And just how like it naturally is like a big ball of waves basically is what I would describe it as. Yep, no makeup. We are coming on here like as I am. Uh it's just one of those days today. I was just feeling like I was hitting a wall. Um but anyways, I did want to provide a couple of updates about things because there was a couple of things that I had talked about in a podcast episode a couple of weeks ago. Um and I wanted to like touch on those updates about what those are. Yeah. So anyways, what I was thinking, or I think what I had talked about a couple weeks ago was my updates on I had like an ultrasound coming up, not because I'm pregnant. Hell no. There was just a couple of things that I thought could have possibly have been happening with my ovaries because I was getting some pain during my ovulation, and I wanted that checked out because I was interested on going back on birth control. Um, I have not been on birth control since 2017. So this is something that has been a big decision for me because obviously we're just in a space where like I have not been more scared about getting pregnant than I was when I was like a teenager. Like that's where we're at. This really weird place where like my husband and I, before we got engaged or anything like that, we knew we wanted to get married one day. We knew we wanted kids one day. And yeah, like if we were to have accidentally gotten pregnant, it would have been a setback, but it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But now we have two kids. And we have a girl and a boy, and we don't plan on having any more. Like two is the perfect number for us. A third would add so many different stressors, and it would just be like too much for us right now. Um, and yeah, like so the thought of a third by accident or anything would is just so stressful, and um it's just something we don't want right now. So yeah, like going back on birth control was something that I had decided to do cuz I was like, you know what? I don't want to go every single month wondering if my period is going to come. And then on those months that my period is a bit late or anything like that, I'm like in on the inside freaking out just a little bit, and having some form of birth control or like contraceptive in this manner just provides me with just that like kind of secondary peace of mind. If you are so just like FYI, I am a women's health coach, so this is why I talk about this stuff on here because I imagine that most of my audience that listens to this are women. So if you are a guy listening to this for whatever reason, I'm really sorry, but this is meant for the girls. So if this makes them uncomfortable, like skip on forward, whatever you need to do. But I just feel like there's women on here that could probably relate to what I'm going through. Um so anyways, got the ultrasound done, and it looks like what my concern was because with two emergency C-sections, um what can happen is there could be like kind of like a secondary, like because of the surgeries and what happens, um just a buildup of scar tissue and things like that that can interfere with your reproductive system essentially. So this is why there is such thing as like a post C-section like infertility issues and stuff like that, because if that pathway is um disrupted by scar tissue from the C-section, that's something that can be happen. So the pain that I was experiencing, I was wondering if it was an ovulate related to ovulation, maybe something was like blocking it or whatever. And in the name of going on contraception, I didn't want, if there was a deeper issue going on, I didn't want it to be hidden because I was on birth control. And when you're on birth control, you're basically like not ovulating, or like depending on the contraception you're going on, um you're ovulating, but there's not like nothing's going to be released kind of thing. Anyways, so it came back all clear, thankfully. So I'm not really sure what the pain is related to. It could be more so like a gastrointestinal type of pain that I'm experiencing or something like that. But regardless, had a follow up with my doctor, and this was an interesting conversation because sometimes honestly, I work with doctors at in healthcare. I deal with them a lot, and the thing with doctors is that they are people too. They've been specially trained in certain things, but they have their biases, they have their opinions about stuff. Some of them have really great bedside manner and are really good at listening and being proactive, some of them not so much. So like there's a lot of skills into being a doctor, and sometimes I think that there are good doctors and there are bad doctors for multiple reasons. So I just recently started going to this new doctor, and she's okay, but this like discussion around contraception was really interesting in the sense of like I don't know where she was coming from, but once we kind of established that my scans had come back clear, I was like, okay. I'm like, well, that's great. So now can we look into me starting some sort of contraception? And I initially was thinking about the NuvaRing. Just I like the idea of having a more convenient source of contraception that I don't have to worry about every single day. If you're a mom, just like having one more thing to remember every day isn't always the most ideal thing. So I didn't really want to do the pill, um, but more of like a longer acting type of contraception. Um, Initially, I was thinking about the NuvaRing, but I knew that I would be a little bit paranoid about whether I placed it right or not, and I just don't want to worry about whether or not it's something is effective or whatever, based on what I'm doing. So my ask of the doctor was like, I was thinking about that, but I think I would like to try the patch. So patch is something that's a little bit longer term. You don't have to change it every day. You change it once a week on the same day, and then you leave a week on the fourth week to allow your period to come. Um, or I believe that there are circumstances where you can just continue on with the patch and you don't get a period. So anyways, she dives into, and I appreciate she's sharing with me the risks and the benefits type of thing. So she was saying like, there's a higher like chance that it doesn't work. Um, it can rub off and all of these other things. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, I understand that. And she was really pushing an IUV on me. Like the permanency, not the permanency of it, but like the longer lasting effects of it, the higher rates of effectiveness of it and stuff like that. And I was not I have thought long and hard about an IUV, and it's just not something that I am really interested in. I just feel like I just don't love the idea of having something inside of me that I can't take out myself. Like, if I were to have negative side effects, if I were to have any kind of pain or issues or anything like that, knowing that I've had two C-sections, knowing that I have a tilted uterus, knowing that I have a heart-shaped uterus, and I know that those might not necessarily be contributing factors to whether an IUV would work or not for me, but it's just like I'm not in a place where it's another thing that I wanna try that could potentially backfire after I have already been through all of these things that have to do with my uterus. I don't want any my uterus has had enough. That's it. So, anyway, I had kind of explained that to her in the sense of like I want anything like that. I don't want anyone having to like do that for me. I'd rather something that like if I don't like it, I can stop it and that's it. So anyway, she like begrudgingly anyway, at one point, this was the interesting part. At one point in the conversation, I don't remember how it came up. Uh because she was talking about the effectiveness of birth control, and then she was like, "Well, the most effective way is abstinence." And I don't remember how I necessarily reacted in the moment, but looking back, I'm like, is that actually helpful advice for somebody looking for contraception? For anybody, for one. But on the other side, I'm like, lady, you are talking to a 35-year-old woman who's had two kids, has been with her husband for 10 years, and you're telling me that why do you feel the need to, you know, put that in there, that the most effective way of birth control is abstinence? So again, like it's just like, okay, cool. Thank you. I'm not 12. I understand how all of this works, so I'm not really sure why you felt the need to share that with me. But thank you. Thank you for that information. So anyways, it was just one of those. I was looking back on it and I'm like, that was so like unnecessary, but okay. So regardless, anyways, there's like a pharmacy in the doctor's office. So she comes over to like put the prescription through to the pharmacy. They don't have the patch that the doctor is prescribing. So they tell me I need to come back and get it like the following day, whatever it was. I go back and get it, and they're telling me that it's this new product on the market. I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't know much about the patches. I've never been on them before. When I was on birth control years ago, I was on the pill." So anyway, I was asking them questions, and I was like, "Okay, like this is what I've read, and what is this true? Like how do I apply this? Like how can I make sure it stays effective?" And they're going through this with me, and the guy's telling me that it's actually two patches, and I'm like, "Two patches?" He's like, "Yeah, like there's actually twice a week that you're going to have to change this one, and all of these other things." He slides in something in there about mentioning about menopause symptoms, and I thought, maybe in my head I was thinking, okay, maybe that's just like an added bonus that he's talking about, like if you are perimenopausal, that these patches are helpful with that. So anyway, I go home, I take one out to apply it the way he tells me to. And just, you know, out of precaution, I had put it away. And then out of precaution, I'm like, I'm just going to read the pamphlet just to make sure I'm doing this right. And as I'm reading the pamphlet, I was initially just had scanned it and looked for the instructions. Um, and I was looking at the instructions, but then I happened to pan over and read what this patch is actually for. And the patch that they gave me was actually for menopausal symptoms, like the management of menopausal symptoms. It was essentially like a hormone replacement therapy patch. And I'm like, this is weird. Now, I don't know a ton about hormones, okay? Like I have a good idea about how they can affect you, um and the different kinds of tools that are out there for hormone replacement therapy and things like that. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure that there's a big difference between hormone replacement therapy and contraception, because contraception in its own right, like they both of them kind of use the same kind of hormones, right? Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone type of thing, usually mostly estrogen and progesterone though. And so I was kind of confused. I'm like, can you use HRT as like a contraception? But like, I'm pretty sure there's for different reasons. So there's going to be different doses of hormones and like how they're released and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know much about this. So anyway, I called my pharmacist, and I was like, listen, what you gave me is a hormone replacement therapy. I'm 35. I'm not in perimenopause. I was looking for contraception. So he was like, "Oh, okay, well, let me get back to you." So he hangs up, and like a little while later he calls me back and he's like, "Okay, I was just talking to the doctor, and um that you can use this HRT as contraception, but if you feel but we're going to switch you to the Evra, the actual like contraception patch, and because if you're more comfortable with that." I'm like, "Yeah, I am more comfortable with that," but we hang up, and I just had like these kind of sneaking suspicions that like, maybe he's just saying that you can use it to cover his own ass. Like I don't know if there was some sort of miscommunication or misunderstanding between the doctor and the pharmacist about the prescription or anything like that, and they're just like, okay, like just trying to play it off. Anyways, long story short, lesson here is read about your medication. When you go on a new medication, make sure you read about it. Make sure that you go through the pamphlet that you're getting and have a good understanding of what you're using and how you can make it the most effective, and also just to make sure it's the right medication, cuz I was kind of like mulling this over in my head, and I'm like, could you imagine if I had not read that pamphlet and I thought that I was on contraception, and for whatever reason, you know, other things happen, I potentially could have gotten pregnant even though I was using what I thought was contraception. Like this could have ended pretty badly. So, anyway, yeah, long story short, this is one of those things where it's like, don't 100% trust. Even though you're working with a professional, and I'm not saying that they're all bad or anything, but we are human. We do make mistakes, and that happens. So it's always good just to like do your own diligence and make sure that you double check on medications or services you're receiving, why that you're receiving them, like what it's going to do, what the side effects are. Like it's just better safe than sorry, right? So anyways, it's been 5 days since I've started the patch. Luckily, so far so good. Like I haven't had too many symptoms that I've really noticed, but that being said, it's only been a few days. So I think it'll be interesting like on like week 3 to see how things are going to um pan out and how I'm going to feel. So far it's just been like sore boobs. So and like I yeah, that's been about it as far as I can tell. Anyways, that's what that update was on that, just like, the women's health perspective of my own health and what I've been doing. Um, with training and nutrition and stuff like that, I have started a little bit of a deficit. Mostly because I was just feeling a little bit more fluffier than I like to, and I was noticing some things were feeling a little bit tighter than I like. So I was like, you know what? I've been really diligent and focused on building muscle. Um, and generally, when I'm focused on building muscle, I'm not so much dialing in my nutrition in terms of like tracking and stuff, but I eat a lot of the same foods. I make sure I have like lots of protein in my diet and stuff like that. I'm just not so much going by how many calories I'm eating by tracking it. I'm just going by like hunger cues and stuff. Um but with the holidays and everything that has been happening, like I gained a few pounds, and that's totally fine and totally expected when you're eating like that. So I just kind of feel like I'm just dialing it in a little bit and just putting myself in a very slight deficit just to kind of like clean things up. First thing I noticed was that my sleep was so much better. What I was doing over the holidays was I was just kind of like eating more sugar and treats and stuff before bed, like just like kind of having that sweet tooth. Um, and since I've been in a deficit, I've been cutting that out, and my quality of sleep has definitely improved. So that's been really cool. But yeah, I've been really enjoying my training. So lately, I've been really prioritizing it, pushing hard through those, and just really focusing on putting on some muscle and gaining some strength. Um, and I've been loving that. So I feel like the winter is just like a good time because you're stuck inside anyways. You're not stuck inside. I shouldn't say that. But we spend a lot of more time inside, and this is just a really good time to place some emphasis on that. Focus on muscle building while you're inside and training hard and pushing to progressive overload and all of that stuff, knowing that come spring and summer I'm going to be probably wanting to spend most of my time outside because I'm going to feel good doing that, and I'm probably not going to want to be spending so much of my time in my basement gym where there's no sunlight or anything like that. So yeah, like you go through these seasons where like something will feel a lot better now and it might not feel as good later, but it doesn't mean that it's not going to benefit you or you can't lean into it or like kind of like take it as it comes as right now, because like right now it's really beneficial. So anyways, I wanted to talk to you guys about reset days because I think these are just it's one of those like really underrated pieces of health and well-being and self-care and recognizing these things. But also, like, how do we know when we need a reset day? Like, how do you gauge when to push through and work out or whatever it is that you're doing versus taking a step back and actually giving yourself legitimate rest? So this is something that I really think just takes practice, and it takes years and years and years of understanding yourself, knowing yourself, um, having some kind of predictable behavior patterns kind of thing. Um, and understanding like where things are going to come from, how things affect your energy, how things affect your mental capacity and stuff like that, in order to understand when it's good time for like a reset day. And then there has been like that trend of Sunday resets, which I have been loving. And that a Sunday reset is in the sense of like taking the time to plan out your week, taking the time to maybe meal prep or ingredient prep, or just like put out something for to set yourself up for the week so that you can have a successful week that feels really good and is well balanced in all of these other aspects, and I love that. But there are times when you just like hit a wall. Like today for me was my wall day. I woke up, I needed some extra sleep. Even with extra sleep, I wasn't feeling super rested. My daughter hasn't been sleeping great the last couple of nights, so I've been having a bit more interruption or just like a not great quality. Um, but also, been other things that have been impacting me. The last couple of weeks, I've been doing a launch for my group challenge that I just kicked off on Monday. I've been picking up extra shifts at my other job because we've been short staffed, but luckily, this week is the last week of me picking up extra shifts. Um, my kids have both started gymnastics in the last couple of weeks, so like more running around, um while also still trying to hold space for my clients, while also making training programs for the challenges and for my clients, and answering questions and setting up nutrition protocols for the participants in the challenge and stuff. So it's been a lot more coming at me lately, and I'm not complaining, but like this is just where that awareness comes to fruition, right? Like we need to know and understand and know and kind of get good at taking a step back up from our lives and having a good feel about like, oh, okay, this is all the things that have been happening to me, and this is all the things that I'm planning for. So this was probably why I'm not feeling 100% my best today, and it's okay to take a break and just like scale back for a second, allow myself to rest, get some good quality like self-care in, so that I am not going to completely burn out and hit and like, not just hit a wall, but like be like out for the count or make myself sick or anything like that, which then doesn't serve anybody, right? So, a reset day for me is usually when I'm coming to a point that like I notice that my brain feels like mush. I'm not thinking as well or as clear as I usually can. Um, I'm usually pretty achy and just like stiff. I'm usually fatigued, like tired, unmotivated. I find that there's like a lack of creativity and all of those things. But again, I've taken a step back today and I've recognized that like there's been a lot going on the last few weeks, let alone this all happening right after the holidays, right? There hasn't been much downtime. My daughter's birthday is also coming up, so that means that I'm going to have a little bit more social interaction coming up with family and stuff like that too. Um, so today was just a good day to say, okay, you know what? It's okay if we miss the workout. It's okay if we miss the walk and don't get our steps in. Today is a good day with my kids. My kids are at daycare for me to give myself some R&R. I did do my like, and it doesn't mean I'm just going to veg out all day, but I did do my Costco run, which is also going to benefit me so that I can do some ingredient prep for the next few days. I am showing up for my podcast because, again, like as I take a step back from deciding what I'm going to do or not do, I showed up for podcasting last week, but I missed 2 weeks before that, and I just didn't wanna miss another week of doing this because I know that I'd have people that listen. I have clients that constantly mention my podcast, and it's one of those things where I'm like, "Ah, you guys are kinda unknowingly holding me accountable to show up and do this." So, it's one of those things, right? I'm taking a step back and kind of, like, assessing and auditing what would be okay to, like, take a step back from for now, and what I should actually prioritize today. So, in the same sense, going back to my conversation with Sierra last week, we talked about those glass balls and rubber balls. Today, and we talked about the complexity of your health being a glass ball because it is a glass ball, but there's so many layers to that, right? So, in one of those layers is that rest and recovery piece, which means taking mental breaks, which means like taking a step back for yourself and providing a different kind of self care aside from exercise and working out and whatever else you may be doing. And today is one of those days. Today, for me, taking a shower sounded so good. And tidying up my house sounded so good. I haven't been home the last couple of days to like be here to help maintain some like organization, and we need laundry done and like all of these other things that are adding to my like mental capacity. So I know that even though I didn't work out today, um, I did take some time for some self care to feel good, to feel like not gross, um, to have like a nice, relaxing shower with no kids where I'm not like having to listen for somebody else or anything like that, to like not feel rushed into doing things like that. For me is something that can be really stressful, is feeling rushed all the time, and I hate that. um like, so, like, just, like, and knowing that I can still have my like, show up for my nutrition, I can still make sure I'm well hydrated, I'm going to get my a little bit of movement in from doing housework, like, there's those other things that you can do that kinda stack up on each other, and that really, if you have goals and wanna feel good, those aren't the things that you want for them to fall to the wayside, like, you still want to prioritize those things, but my workout for today was going to be a harder, more intense workout, and I just didn't feel like it was going to be the most therapeutic for me today. Um, but I do think that a mobility session tonight before I go to bed will be really nice, and that will feel really, really good, and also probably help me sleep a little bit better. So it's just these ways of pivoting and scaling back your routine in a way that is still going to make you feel good, but allow you to have a little bit more rest and recovery, and allow you to kind of mentally like um, collect yourself a little bit before you go into more chaos kind of thing. So these reset days are so therapeutic, and I also find that anytime I need one, it's for a reason because I've been doing so many other things, but I also find that intuitively I've gotten really good at knowing when I need one and when I need to push through. But the times that I know that I need one and I take it, I feel 1,000% better by the next day. Like at some point today, I know I'll feel guilty a little bit for feeling like I wasn't as productive as I could have been, like quote unquote. Um, but tomorrow morning when I wake up and I feel way more refreshed, I'm not going to regret taking this day to just kind of chill out for a bit. So, I hope you're finding this conversation helpful in a way that's going to help you to assess your own life and your own decisions when it comes to like taking some time to reset and knowing when to push through and not to push through. But that being said, I also think that your goals need to come into consideration as well. Right now, my goal, like if I were in, say, a powerlifting era again, if I had a powerlifting competition coming up, today would not have been a day to take a rest day. Like today would have been like, no, my workout needs to be prioritized because if I'm looking for to compete in a powerlifting competition, these workouts have to happen. And it might be a bit of a slower workout. It might be more of a lighter workout in terms of like I might not feel like I can lift as heavy or anything like that, but the workout needs to happen in order to continue with that strength and muscle stimulation. But that's not my goal right now. My goal right now is to feel like the best that I can be, to, feel strong, to prepare for the future, to have that longevity, to have the energy for my kids, to like have more patience and mental capacity and stuff. And my workouts help with that a lot. But there comes a point, especially with having more intense workouts and more like effective workouts, that you just might need to take a step back just for a second, right? I'm not saying for a whole week or anything like that, although there are times and places for that too. But when you are going, and you know that you're coming to a point where like you're not looking forward to your workout, or like you are feeling like it's more therapeutic for you to take a step back for a second, then that's a good indication that might be what you need for that kind of day. Um, that going being and then going into, you know, this type of behavior, we also want to make sure we set some boundaries here too. So, this is not an excuse to not work out for a few weeks because you had one bad day or you hit a wall or whatever it is. Especially if you are somebody who is new to exercise and new to establishing a routine, because the most important piece that you're going to want to do is to continue on even when you don't really want to. Um, and it's not so when it comes to setting boundaries, it's not that we want all of these rules around ourselves. Like, we don't want all of these no's or like all of this list of like, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to eat that, whatever. We want reasonable guidelines for ourselves because that can help keep us in check. And that can help us to call ourselves out on our bullshit. There is a time and a place where a reset day is appropriate and it's beneficial and it's going to help you to leverage yourself and shoot yourself forward when it comes to progress and when it comes to your behaviors. But there is a point where are just bullshitting yourself and making up excuses. So you have to know the difference and you have to understand, and that's part of that awareness piece, is that you know when you're bullshitting yourself and you know when you actually need it. One of my clients recently shared a video with me from Dayla Loves Dumbbells. Like, so she's another like big online fitness coach, and she has a rule for herself that I actually really like because I think it's actually very applicable to most people. So she has, and this is like just an example of what you can do in terms of setting boundaries with yourself and knowing when to call yourself out on your bullshit. So what she does is she has a 3-day rule for herself that she never goes 3 days without working out. So there might be a day where she gets caught up into something like work related or whatever and the workout doesn't happen. There might be another day, like the day after, where you know what? Your kids are sick or something happens, or and you don't feel like working out. But the third day, it's like, nope, I've had my 2 days of, making excuses or not doing it or not making it a priority for one reason or another, but that 3rd day, you just know it's gonna happen, and, like, it's that rule for her where she's like, "Nope, it's my day 3 of not working out if I don't, so it has to happen, and I'm gonna make it happen, and there's not really any excuse that I can come up with that's gonna get me out of this because it has to happen." So, that was just a really good example of, like, how you can set boundaries with yourself in terms of just making sure that you're not going to continue to come up with excuses that get you out of the hard things that you know you need to do, especially when you have goals, especially when you want to take care of your well-being, especially if you know, want benefits from exercise that are just like unending. So but the thing with exercise especially is that it's hard, right? And it's easy to come up with things to avoid it because it's the hard thing that we have to do. But there's also so many other benefits of exercise and actually getting it done as well. Um So, anyways, I hope that was helpful in just deciphering, the benefit of taking a reset day, but also knowing when it's appropriate to take a reset day and also understanding how, you know, that you're not bullshitting yourself and could actually use one. And just knowing too that we all need rest. We like, if you are watching someone on Instagram and you think that they're working out every single day, um and that they don't need rest or anything like that, they're probably like misrepresenting themselves. Or they're really burning themselves out and they're just not showing it. But when it comes to like life balance and understanding and like taking care of your well-being, not just from the physical perspective, but from like a mental capacity perspective, these days are so necessary. um, After my shower today, I already feel a lot better. And after I'm done wrapping this up, I'm going to be tackling a few different tasks upstairs before I go get my kids, and that'll be that'll be it. But I work again tomorrow, and the weekend I have a couple of things going on for my daughter's birthday, and so I'm glad that I decided that today was going to be a day to just chill for a little bit. Um, yeah. and maybe I'll say this on here because it'll hold me accountable. So I am going to show up for a 5 a.m. workout tomorrow just to get it done. And then that way it also frees up a bit of my weekend without having to worry about putting in another workout. So making shit happen over here, guys. Um, yeah. So, anyways, this is going to be just like a short and sweet episode. Um, I just wanted to like show up in some way today and talk about something beneficial. Um, but yeah, here we are halfway through January, and I feel like a lot of us are feeling this too. Like a lot of I feel like a lot of my clients right now are dealing with like the demotivation of January, but also like sicknesses and all of these other things that just come with the winter months, and that can make things a lot harder too. um Winter just, especially here in Canada, it just takes more intention and paying attention to yourself and your needs, and but also the bullshit that you can tell yourself too, right? Like the story that's in your head about certain things that might not actually be helpful in the long run. So, anyways, I'm going to wrap it up here. I hope everyone is having an amazing day, and we'll see you next